Hi, this is Regeline Sabat, also known as Gigi. You're listening to Walk With Me podcast. My guest today is Claude Collins. Claude is an author, speaker, and coach. Welcome to the show, Claude.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
You're welcome. It's an honor to have you here today. Now, why don't you start off by telling us about you and where you're from?
Well, I'm from Oklahoma. I was born and raised. Uh, Started a college at Southeastern University in Durant, Oklahoma, and then I dropped out of school for a while. Worked construction for 40 something years. And during that process, I also was involved in training younger supervisors and managers. And from there, that kind of got me involved in uh, wanting to express how important communication was. So I've written two books. One of them is the first book in line with that was Leadership, Followers, Behavior, and Tools, which is really a companion to my training. And then the second one is Thought Talk, which is this is for everybody. This tells you it gives you ways to communicate positive, whether it's with your friends or strangers or just somebody you meet on the street. We don't put enough positivity into our communication.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can you tell us growing up as a tongue-tied boy?
I'm sorry.
Can you tell us more about your experience growing up as a tongue-tied boy?
Well, yeah. So southeastern Oklahoma is one of the smallest populated counties, and I was raised in the country about 3 or 4 miles out of town, and the closest doctor was in the county seat, which is another 15, 16 miles away. But anyway, I had a lot of trouble in my first, second, third grade of speaking because there's a lot of words I couldn't say. And they even put me in some type of speech therapy, which after 4 or 5 months, the instructor told my parents that I just didn't try hard enough. And of course, that's what my dad always thought too, that I just didn't try hard enough to pronounce words. And then when I was about 11 years old, I started having lots of trouble with my tonsils. And so, of course, they had to send me a specialist, and that was in Paris, Texas. And so we went to Paris, Texas, which was about an hour away. And the doctor examined me, said, yeah, you need to take his tonsils out. They're enlarged. They're always going to be a problem. They're inflamed. And of course, parents agreed with that. And he said, by the way, he says, he's partially tongue tied. It says, I can clip his tongue, which is basically clipping the attachment underneath your tongue further back. And he said, I can clip his tongue while I'm taking his tonsils out if you want me to correct that. So, of course, I was surprised, but that answered a lot of problems with my communication. And so, but I never let that be a handicap for me. Even as a small child, I find other words, or I'd find ways to communicate, and so after the tongue was clipped, that was great. And I could say magnificent was one of the words I could never say. And of course, that was one of the first things I wanted to say. And even from that point, I think learning how to communicate differently as a small child, I kind of took that on into high school and from there on, because even in my high school, I was more or less a leader. I was always class president or chairman of the Halloween Carnival or whatever, FFA president. And I just took that right on into my profession and moved up and became a manager and construction manager and managed people all my life. So communication has always been a big part of what I do. And like I say, I've been very successful with doing that and keeping it positive.
That is amazing. Can you tell us what if it were possible?
Well, the book What If Possible is actually a sci-fi book. It was the first book I written. It took me almost 2 years to write. It's what I call soft sci-fi. It has no monsters in it. It don't have any kind of galactical battles or anything like this in it. It's really about a journey. It's it's spaced about 50 years in advance from where we are now, which that's about how often technology evolves. And we found that we can long range travel, which, we're on the verge of doing that now in space. And I just took some of the theories of the day and put it into the book, and we're able to travel to another planet through a wormhole, and come find out that those people are really just like us. And part of the book is kind of tying in some of the biblical side in with the ancient alien beliefs or theories that they have. And so, biblically wise, we're all created in God's image. So, and God created the heavens and earth, and the heavens, of course, is the space. So why wouldn't we all look alike? That's kind of my philosophy. And so that it's more or less finding these people, forming a bond, and then they come back to Earth and form an alliance. And it's like I say, it's more about the journey than space monsters. So yeah.
That is wonderful. Tell us more about your followers' behaviors. What is your vision for that book?
Well, the leadership tools, like I say again, was written to be a companion to my training. I do a manager supervisor's training talking about leadership and what is possessed with what's requirements of a good leader in compassion and communication and honesty and all the things that goes along with that. And this book is really, it gives you the basis of that, and it also gives you some tools to use to start learning to communicate more positive and understanding the feedback that you get from your employees to make sure that they're on a positive track. And then book 2, which is Thought Talk, basically, it kind of picks up from there. And one of the things I realized so much is, everything that we do relies on communication, whether you're playing sports or you're hanging out with your friends or whether you're buying something at the store. We communicate, and the way we communicate has a lot to do with what the outcome is. So what I did, I took this book and I used kind of the same principle of positive communication and put it into this book for everyday use for everybody. And a good example, there's a lot of studies and research, which I just talk a little bit about that in the books just to validate what I'm talking about. Is, we have a tendency to communicate with the person and not the subconscious and not the spirit. And what we need to do is always communicate with the whole body. And a good example is just like you coming out the door today, and I noticed that you had a new hairstyle, and I say, hey, that's a nice hairstyle. And of course, you would say, hey, thanks, and walk on. But subconsciously, they're still deciding whether I like that hairstyle or not. Because I just said it was a nice hairstyle. But if I'd met you and I'd said, hey, I love that hairstyle, then your subconscious would immediately realize I like that hairstyle, and it would cause endorphins to be released in your brain and start that good feel that you need, that you wouldn't have got from the first comment that I would have made. And so those endorphins release the positive energy in your brain and start that positive feeling. And that's how you spread it on from one person to the other. And first thing you know, you have a positive environment.
Very powerful. Tell us more about your way to success.
I'm sorry?
Tell us more about your way to success.
Okay, I have a copy of that too. Let's see. Here it is. I was co-author with several authors on this, and I have a chapter in that book. And this book is more about how people have overcome to be able to get up on the stage. And like for me, not just my speech impediment that I had as being tongue-tied as a young child, but also, if you haven't noticed, I have a very Southern drawl, which is, we call it Oklahoma drawl, but I still use that to advantage when I get up on the stage and speak. And like I say, this draw is not going away. I originally thought, I'd go to the school and get out and I'd move somewhere and I'd gradually get rid of this southern draw. But fortunate for me, my first 12 years of working, I worked in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Arkansas, Texas. So, I've got the draw. It's going to be here forever. So, but it's all about, this book is all about how overcoming and being able to get up on the stage and be successful at what you do. And it's a very good book, lots of inspiring chapters and good advice from a lot of good people like David Gomez and Michael Butler and many other authors and speakers.
Yes, both of them are mine. So I really appreciate you sharing that information with us. Now, can you tell us more about your experience as a coach?
Well, the coach part of it is originally, as I said, I was a construction manager. I helped train supervisor managers, and that's where my coach aspect really was born and carry on. And really, it's still taking the same principle and working with the individual or a small group to get that mindset that positivity creates positive atmosphere, and especially in a workforce, it creates a positive workforce which is more productive, and that's many scientific studies have shown that throughout the years. And like I say, I more or less stay on the same principles, use my kind of outline of my training to use that for coaching.
That is wonderful. Now, tell us about the most difficult challenge that you have faced in your life.
You go ahead and repeat that. I'm sorry.
Tell us more about the most difficult challenge that you have been faced with in your life.
Oh, I've been faced with a lot of difficult challenges. When I was 22 years old, my appendix ruptured, and I refused to go to the hospital. Finally, my father-in-law at the time threw me over his shoulders and hauled me to the hospital. I spent 8 weeks in the hospital. I went from 200 pounds to 145 pounds. I'd sit up in bed and pass out. The doctor told him that after I'd been there about 4 weeks, that the good thing was I was young, I was strong, I was healthy, but my odds of survival wasn't that great. And he said, matter of fact, it was about 20%. But I survived it. I came through it with the grace of God on my side and in my family. And I think I'm a better person going through that experience. There are lots of tribulations and things I've been challenged with, but again, I always found I go back. I rely on my faith and believe that there's always something better ahead, and so far there always has been. So,
amen. God always. Now, was there a time in your life journey where you experienced an aha moment?
Yeah, I think so. I think the ha-ha moment was when I started writing. And I know that, sounds a little strange, but, I never was the best English student. I never was the best literature student. I've always loved to read, which, again, being from the country, you did a lot entertaining yourself. So you did read a lot. But like I said, I didn't learn phonics when I was a young child. So I always have trouble pronouncing words. There's still words today I can't pronounce because I learned the words by memory. I didn't learn them by sound, And so if I need to look up something in a dictionary, sometimes I have a little problem because I can't sound it out well enough to even look it up in a dictionary. So, and then writing it and then proofing it myself and then finding out that, the proofreaders and the editors did very little to my book once they got a hold of it because I had accomplished something way beyond what I thought I could do. And that was definitely a all moment for me.
I will tell you.
Sorry, my dog just went crazy.
You are truly a warrior. Now, can you tell us more about happiness in your life?
I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
Can you tell us more what gives you happiness in your life?
Oh, I think my happiness is my family, my friends, my faith. Excuse me just a moment.
Yes, sir. Not a problem.
Okay, corrected. Yeah, it's definitely family and friends and what I do, my work. I enjoy helping people. It's always been part of my life. I believe in giving. I think you always get more rewards back giving freely without expecting anything. So it makes me happy. So.
I love it. Now, what is your best advice to the audience for walking with purpose and living a life of happiness?
Well, I think the first thing is be true to yourself. Okay, find out who you are, not necessarily professionally or anything like that, just who you are as a person. Find your faith, whatever your religion is, understand that faith, and then walk with kindness, love a lot, give a lot, and I think you'll find that helps you find yourself along the way.
I love it. Very powerful. Claude, thank you so much for being a guest on Walk With Me podcast. Now, where can the audience find you?
You can find me at craycollins.com. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I also do podcasts, which you can find on YouTube under Thought Talk, which is the same, it's got the same name as my book. And my podcast is all about positivity, about what people do in the community. So feel free to look me up anytime.
Very powerful. Now, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to check out Claude at his LinkedIn, Claude Collins, and craycollins.com. And again, Claude, thank you so much for being a guest on Walk With Me podcast. You have a blessed day.
Thank you so much. And I've like I said, I've been enjoying your podcast, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Have
a blessed day.
You too.